That time of the week to reach out to one of our favourite Gen Xers, none other than the great Dave Rubin from the free state of Florida. His show is called the Rubin Report, but you can see him each and every week with us. G'day, Dave. How are you, mate?
It is the fall in the free state of Florida. Well, is it the fall? It's the fall or the winter. I can't even tell because it's just sunny and beautiful and everyone's happy and free here. So it's all good, my friend. How you doing?
Now, today, massive protests in the United States, but they, for once, were in favour and support for Israel. What do you think of them?
Well, it was very heartening to see, you know, for the last couple of weeks since October 7th, we've seen a lot of rallies in support of, I would say, Hamas, not in support of the Palestinian people. They actually are in support of Hamas, and the rallies are calling for chants like River to the Sea, and as you had, unfortunately, in Australia, Gas the Jews, and we've seen this all across London and a bunch of other places, mostly in Western Europe. We've seen a little bit of it in the United States. So it was nice to see a rally today that was completely peaceful, where there were American flags, there were talk about shared values, there were talks about returning hostages and actually how perhaps one day there could be peace. There were no calls for violence or anything else like that. This is the type of protesting that in America we should see more of, where, you know, people are going to clean up after themselves. You know, it's going on right as we're recording this right now, but I just know that D.C. is not going to be left in shambles. They're not going to desecrate the White House or burn down any monuments or memorials or anything like that. And I think that tells you something pretty deep about what the fight here really is all about.
Yeah, it's really interesting how these protests are being presented to the American public. I couldn't help but notice that Rachel Maddow the other night on MSNBC, far lefty cable channel in the United States, she showed protests from here, there and everywhere when it came to the Palestinian cause, but wouldn't actually run things like this that were being said at those protests.
There's nothing higher nor more glorious than a martyr, and so we say glory to all the martyrs wherever they may be. Allahu Akbar. And the truth is, the Western world is alive. To the members of Congress, letting them know that they will be prosecuted in criminal courts.
Well, Paul, I'm glad you're also not making the distinction between quote-unquote pro-Palestine protests and Hamas protests. The simple truth is, if anyone went out there with a sign that said, I'm against Hamas, they would be treated just like if you brought out a sign that said, I'm for Israel. These are Hamas protests. What instigated this? It was the Hamas actions of killing 1,500 people and keeping 200 hostages and all of the rest of it. But you're right. The mainstream media runs cover, unfortunately, for these protests because they've wholly swallowed the narrative of the oppressed versus the oppressor, and they believe that Israel is the strong power and the Palestinians are this weak power. There's a gajillion historical reasons why this is inaccurate, and there's geopolitical reasons why it's inaccurate and everything else. But yes, there is a real problem here because we have people on our streets, and there's a bigger version of it in Europe than there is even in Australia and the United States. But as you correctly point out, it's sort of everywhere right now, where they're calling for Sharia. They're talking about the Muslim armies of the world to wake up. And as I've been trying to point out to people, you don't have to specifically care about the Jewish people any more than you care about watching Seinfeld. And you don't have to care about the land of Israel any more than you care about watching the Ten Commandments once a year. But if you think that the Jews don't have anything to do with Israel, well, then what do you think they are going to say about Americans in our land? What do you think they're going to say about guys like you and your viewers in the land of Australia? This is just the beginning of a much more nefarious project.